Building your own brand versus managed Amazon. The trade-off? I hear it all the time in e-commerce. I want to build my own brand. I understand why that idea is so attractive. Brand sounds like the finish line. Control equity, something that's yours, something that isn't dependent on anyone else. You own it. But here's what I've learned, and it's been years in the business. What most people only realize is, once they've spent time and money in this space, building a brand isn't just a goal. It's like an operating model. And the real question isn't whether building a brand is good or bad. What you need to understand is, what you need to ask yourself is, do you actually want the job that comes with it? Okay, so there's a version of this conversation online that gets oversimplified. Brand equals freedom. Build your own brand, and managed equals giving up the control. Real life is a lot more nuanced than that. So I want to walk through this. Most people actually think about it not as like a debate, but as a decision someone makes when they're serious, when they have the capital, when they're choosing leverage over chaos, ownership versus what they can scale. So here's the first thing I'll say. Most people don't want a brand, not in reality. They want what they think a brand gives them. Stability, predictability, cash flow, upside, optionality. They assume brand is the cleanest path to get there. And sometimes it is, but it's rarely the fastest path. And it's almost never the cleanest path early on, because building a brand from scratch means you're choosing to be responsible for everything that makes a brand work, not the highlight reel, okay, the actual machinery. When someone says, I'm building my brand, great. They're really thinking about the logo and a product. What they're saying is, I'm gonna make a long series of decisions and I'm gonna pay to find out which ones work and which ones were wrong. That's a negative statement. It's the truth. Brand building is disciplined process of testing product, testing positioning, testing messaging, testing marketing, testing pricing, testing creatives, testing acquisitions, testing channels, testing fulfillment, testing customer experience, testing retention. See, the hard part isn't that it's impossible. The hard part is that you usually don't find the right version immediately. You're testing and you find it through iteration. And iteration costs money and it costs time. That is where people misjudge capital. Someone says, well, I'm gonna build my brand and I'm gonna bootstrap it. And what they think is like, I'm gonna buy some inventory and I'm gonna launch something, and if it works, then I'm gonna scale. The real cost was the marketing, the learning curve. The margins were burned because the ads sucked. Ad spend, it doesn't come back. Agencies that aren't aligned, like if the creative is struggling, like there's fatigue there. Products aren't good. Products may be good, but it doesn't matter because it's not getting in front of people. That's not failure. That's brand building, right? You're funding discovery to find out what works. Now, let's compare that to a properly managed Amazon model. And I want to be careful here, because there's absolutely automation programs that are slop, that rely on shortcuts, that are non-compliant, that feed you the dream as opposed to here's what a business looks like built for longevity. And when people get burned, they walk away saying, everything's a scam, it's all garbage. But the issue wasn't the managed as a concept. The problem was who was managing, how it was managed. There's a difference between someone that says, hey, they're going to do it for you, and there's an actual operation team with real systems, warehousing, sourcing, compliance, and real accountability. Those are not the same thing. Here's the most important distinction. Building brands is a creativity-led business. You're creating identity and demand over time through your ad and awareness. A managed Amazon business is an execution, operation-led business. You're plugging into infrastructure. The demand is already there. You need someone running the operation cleanly. So if you love marketing and storytelling and creatives and creating content and experimentation, then brand building might be a fit. But if you're a high-income professional and your real constraints are time and attention and bandwidth, then the calculus changes, because you're not looking for a new hobby, you're looking for an asset. You want something that cash flows, and that's where Amazon comes in with the right operation. That's why I keep coming back to the word leverage. If you're building a brand, leverage comes later, after the brand exists, after repeat buyers exist, after you've built an audience, after reputation, after the marketing engine is firing. In the beginning, you are the lever. Your money is the lever. You're the point of integration. You're making the calls, you're driving strategy, deciding what gets tested and what you're doing next. Even if you outsource pieces, the ads, the creative, fulfillment, you're still holding it all together. It's on you. And that's the hidden job. For some people, that's exactly what they want. They want to be in control. For others, it's what breaks them. Now, a managed Amazon model, when done correctly, is basically saying, hey, I've got capital. I want to buy into operational maturity instead of reinventing it. You're not learning sourcing from scratch. You're not learning compliance through mistakes. You're not stitching together a team of a bunch of freelancers and flipping coordination. You're not guessing which suppliers are safe. You're not guessing which categories trigger issues. You're working with a team that already knows all of this, where the breaks are, what you need to build around, where the failure ports are. That's the whole point. Not passive income, not no work. It's just fewer unforced errors because someone is managing it well for you. And so this is the real trade-off. When you build your own brand, you get momentum and you get maximum control eventually. You decide the product and the positioning and the experience and what's going to be the next product and the direction. With a highly managed account in that model, you're buying leverage. And that means you don't control every lever. And for some personality types, that's uncomfortable, and that's understandable, but here's the truth. Most people get into e-commerce and they say, hey, I want control until they experience it and they figure out what that control actually costs. Control means decisions and oversight and being the person who cannot disappear without the business feeling it. Leverage is different. Leverage is when the system keeps moving even when you're not in the weeds. You don't have to show up in the warehouse. That's what a high-performing professional, is usually buying. Not easy. What they're doing is, I want a business that doesn't depend on my attention every day. So another thing worth saying out loud, a lot of people jump to I want to build a brand because they're chasing identity. Honestly, it's a little bit of ego. They want to feel like a founder, and I get that, but if your goal is wealth, you have to separate the ego from the outcome. This is where people quietly generate strong cash flow, well-run operations who will never call themselves founders. And they'll outperform the person that's constantly resetting because the brand isn't stable yet. I'm not anti-brand, I'm pro-sequence and pro-systems. So here's what I've seen work more often than not. People who eventually want brand ownership but don't want to gamble their learning curve start with a model that produces cash flow. They start with a proven system. They build revenue and exposure first. They build a base first. They learn how the machine works and they get reps without reinventing everything. And then if they decide, hey, now I want to build a brand, then they do it from strength with capital, with context, with systems, with a team, not just guessing it and winging it and learning as you go. This is also where legitimate teams matter. If you're going to do managed Amazon, only version that makes sense long-term is compliance first and built like a real operator. Supplier discipline, clean account health, no gray area tactics, no hope Amazon doesn't notice kind of thing. That's what a group like Inopoly here, the way that we're positioned is different. Not because we promise results, but because the model is built around sustainability and clean execution and a team that avoids the exact mistakes that cause all of those horror stories. You're not buying magic, you're buying professionalism. So let me bring this home. Building your own brand can be incredible when you want the job and you're prepared for the runway. Managed Amazon account can be incredibly attractive when you want leverage, when you want scalability, exposure to existing demand, and execution. Again, failure doesn't come because people picked the wrong option. They fail because they picked the right option at the wrong time. They build a brand when what they needed was cash flow, or they jump into something thinking that they're going to be in control and they blame the model itself. So zoom out, again, the macro version. This isn't a debate, it's sequencing early and wanting control. Brand building might be the move if you accept that runway and you understand everything that goes with it. Establish high opportunity cost and want leverage. You want managed Amazon accounts because that's where a rational option, especially with a team that treats this like a real business. That's how I think about it. It's not like this ideology. It's a decision, it's a practice decision, control versus leverage, and what your time and your capital is actually worth.